Back for part two now, punters. Question time. We've got a couple of really good questions this week. It's
I like when you say that because then they're in depth and I've got no idea what they are, and you've had all this time to bloody keep to yourself and get ready for them, and then you jam me. Yeah, half an hour. We'll be right. Shoot.
Indeed. Okay, so the first one's from Nathan, who says he doesn't use any software like ours, but he wants some advice on ways to record notes when reviewing race meetings for future reference. Now,
Makes it difficult,
but I suppose
black books. That's probably the best way, I think.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I don't. It's very hard for meetings.
Some sort of spreadsheet.
Yeah, well, I guess if you've got a spreadsheet for things like pace and bias, maybe. But if I think like I'm back in the day before a lot of these things were like a fun gadgets were like
index cards.
Yeah, well, had index cards. But I think black book systems. I remember RaceNet. I used to just drive RaceNet mad with. Putting notes in against horses, which basically, like if you found a horse that you wanted to follow, or for whatever it was, for positive or negative reasons, I'd just throw it in a black book. It's probably the easiest way. There's plenty of them around. But as it goes to like
managing the black book, once you've got a system like that,
it is. But then what else do you do? What else do you do
without some sort of spreadsheets?
Yeah, I know that kind of heads down the same.
That's more complex.
It is, but it's probably the only way to do it.
I suppose advice. I suppose the question I've got is why aren't you using our product, or why aren't you using a product?
Yeah, there are a few available at different price points. I think.
If it's cost, ours is pretty competitive. It's I don't think that even at the minimum level, it's any really more expensive than anything else.
Depends if you back a winner along the way.
Well, I suppose the question is, what's the opportunity cost of not having it?
Yeah, that's for someone like me, it's a no-brainer because it saves me time, and I've also like it. There's the number of overlaying reasons I use it.
But even if you're $100 punter,
massive,
and you back a winner at 3-1, you've almost paid for it, haven't you?
100 at 3-1. Can I get that price?
No, 100 at 3-1 per month.
Per month. Per month. Yes. I'm saying if you break it down on an annual basis, it definitely is. But I can see why people balk at prices, not just your software, other people's things, because they don't see the value in it, in time saving. As you said, like even just quick reference, if you've missed something, even on the day you've got your race day verifying thing, there's a million reasons why it does pay for itself to someone who uses it all the time. But if you don't know what it's capable of, you don't know that it can save you this time quick thing, then it's hard to understand or justify.
My advice is go and have a look at the video. It doesn't cost you anything. It's on the website. It'll give you a bit of an overview
for ratings
of the software. Have a look at it. If you've got any questions, happy to ask it. And look, there are.
And when he's saying that, like, I've got no financial interest at all in Paul's business, but it is basically impossible to do what you're asking without some sort of software help.
Yeah, and unless you're prepared to accept.
Yeah, and it depends what you want to record and keep track of. If it's something as simple as, I thought that was a good run, I want to follow that horse, a black book will do that.
Black book will do that.
But if you want to follow biases, paces, how jockeys are going, all these sort of things, software is the only real answer unless you've got 20 hours a day to spare.
In which case you're not valuing your time.
No, and then you've still got to record it anyway. So
exactly.
It's just a matter of how deep you want to get into it. If it's just a matter of following horses, there's a number of black books. I think you can use things like sports bet apps and things like that. They'll send you a text message or punters.com. I think they do it as well.
With an odds boost offer or
with odds boost,
affiliate.
Well, they'll drive you mental, but they're good. Like that, I think you can like alert when prices as soon as betting comes up for races and stuff like that. So those sort of things are the free things that you can get, but they're very basic.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yep.
So hopefully, Nathan, that explains that adequately. Okay, so next one's interesting from Michael. He's emailed in and he's wanting to congratulate us and what we're doing and whatnot, but he's wanting to talk about his unit size. He's saying that it's fairly small at present due to financial commitments, which is fine. You've got to bet to what you can afford. But he's wondering how we handle multi-betting and staking for that as part of our overall bank. He said he finds normally that his weekend bets he's typically winning or in front from win betting, and he obviously has losing streaks like everyone. But where he's being let down, or where he's letting himself down, is he wants to play multi-bets, or he is playing multi-bets, having a crack at a decent windfall, but finds that most weekends he's just doing all that money back and So pretty much nullifying the effect of any good work he's done.
And he was a quaddie punter, but it looks like the value's shot, which I can agree with that.
Yeah, I can guarantee you it is. I mean, not necessarily on a
carnival time,
case by base.
Carnival time, it builds back up, and you get the old system because you get all the carnival punters getting involved and betting with the tab and things like that, and you've still got a chance. Whereas non-carnival time, it's not struggle city.
So anyway, that's his situation. He's asking, how do we approach multi-betting? The first answer for me is I don't. John?
I love it. No, I do love it, but I bet in an area too where betting's very volatile. So if you want to get set for any sort of amount, multi-betting's basically your only chance. And because I have a little bit of more influence over the market in country in these sort of areas, prices tend to crash as well too. So for me, I have to do it. And I think I've got enough edge over the market in the areas where I am significantly to bet through the percentages that I'm having to, even when they're multiplying out, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking, I've always been a multi-punter. I'm not talking 5 legs, I'm talking sort of 2, 3 at absolute most would be absolute most in general. 2's normal. And how do I approach it? I don't have a separate. I just for the service that I provide, I like to say so 6 unit outlay is the most I do on any race, regardless. It's the same with multi-betting, so it's maximum 6 units across the all up. So it can be more than 6 on the second leg, obviously, but it's if the first one locks.
6 units is what percentage of a total bank?
Well, yes, I say 1% or something. Like if I'm saying a maximum outlay is 1%, it's basically a confidence rating for much as anything.
So 6 units would be like on a 600 unit bank.
Correct.
1%.
Correct. And if someone wants to be aggressive, they'll cut it to a 300 or whatever, you know. So it's just sort of, for me, everyone's different. But it's a confidence rating as much as anything. But
the next part of his question we sort of touched on, which was, do you go for 5 legs plus, or do you stick to 2 or 3? You're saying 2 or 3.
Well, as you say, like I'd assume that your argument for not getting involved is the way it sort of multiplies out, and the more legs you throw in there, the more you're playing into their favour as the corporates.
Yeah, and also price. I mean, on a 3-leg multi at $1.80. So if you go $1.80, $1.80, $1.80, win or place doesn't really matter. We're just talking price now. Your success rate is only 17 times in 100. So you're going to lose 83 times in 100 statistically. Give or take whatever edge you might have if you have an edge.
Yes.
If you have a 5-leg multi at say $1.50, so you think that we should be able to collect here pretty often.
Yes.
You've only got a 13% chance of being successful, and you're going to lose 87 times out of 100.
And it's funny the way people sort of approach that, because say that every leg's 2's on, they think they're morals. You know what I mean? They just mentally you think they're all 2's on, so they're all good things. Yeah, they're all good things. So it's funny whether you got 1, 2, or 5 of them. You think you're a moral to collect, don't you? It's kind of funny to average.
And that just comes back to expectation, doesn't it?
Yes.
In terms of most punters, when they get to the short end of the market, are thinking, well, it's $1.50, should just win. And if it gets beaten 2 times out of 10, they're horrified. But the reality is it's probably going to get beat, 34 times in 100.
Yeah, that's right. So I learnt not much off my father as a punting person, but he was certainly the person who introduced it to me. And I've just been to Newcastle with him for a couple of days, and he's the sort of guy, the only horse I liked at Newcastle the whole time, and luckily it won, was the horse in the last race on the second day, thing called Defeat. Anyway, it was like $7. We're sitting in the tab that morning, and he's like, what do you like? I said, well, this is the only thing I like. I didn't ask him how much he has on it. Throughout the day, he's having 50, 100, 50, 100 on things, even money. Loves it, things. Yep. And then at the end of the day, I'm thinking, he said, he's had $20 on it. You know what I mean? Like, because it's amazing how, and he's been betting for 50 years. I've been betting with him for 20 years, trying to teach him out of his own mentality that the shorter it is, the more you have on. And he it's.
Well, you should have more on, but you should be consistent and
it's still even if you're not having it. If you're having $100 on things at $2.10, and for whatever reason, if you think someone's got a more idea than you and they're tipping your horse at $7, it's very hard to justify to me that you're having 100 on something just because it's even, or 20 on something at 7. It just drives me insane. But it's that's the mentality of 99% of punters.
And that's the difficulty, I suppose, is with multis, and that's why I just don't do it.
Yeah.
And look, Michael's actually then gone on to say that he realises the answer is probably to cut back on the multi-betting size if he's not landing them, but he enjoys the challenge. Well, if you enjoy the challenge, put it on a bit of paper and forget about it and just stick to win betting. You shouldn't be betting them, in my opinion. And if you are staking, and that's the next part of your question, I suppose, is how do you stake a 3-leg multi? Well, I just did some numbers this morning. If it's $3, $2.50 and $2, and you're betting to collect 4% of your bank, which is an average target for me in the way I bet. So that means that you should be having something like $26, $27 on that on a $10,000 bank. So if you've got a $10,000 bank, think about it.
It's not, it's you're cutting your out.
It's $3, $2.50 and $2. And I said to you should only be having $26 or $27, you'd be thinking I'm mad.
Yeah, you're mad, because when he's talking about it, he's trying to get that, the
kick.
Yeah, the bank doubler in one bet.
Bank doublers rarely exist.
Well, they do, but they're Hail Marys, so you've got to understand that you're going to have massive drawdowns even before you strike one.
And a 5-leg multi, $3, $2.50, $2, $1.75 and $1.50.
Yep.
You should only be having
$10, so 0.1% or something.
Yeah, so
not even. Yeah,
average punters will be speculating more, and
they'll be overstaking.
Yeah, you're overstaking, and if you're overstaking anything, I don't care if it's win betting, place betting, multi betting,
and it makes you look worse than what you are. At the actual bet type,
you're going to go broke.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
It's interesting because the way I did statistics, like I think 2008, I've been doing this Racing Watch stuff from, right? So everything's pretty standard bet types, and obviously like win and place are the only way you're going to be throwing you into a multi. So sometimes I do have place or win place or whatever. So I haven't broken that out, but everything's very similar across the board. Metropolitan, country, win place, everything comes out pretty similar as a profit on turnover. But multis was the best. It runs at like 60% profit on turnover for 11 years.
Not just have you got the issue of 83, 87 times in 100 you're going to lose on those examples, and the fact that you should be betting so low, you've then still got to overcome the rake.
The double rake. The double rake, yes. So, no, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's weird that it comes out like that. So it's hard for me to argue against them because I know I'm profiting at them over an extended period of time, but I don't overstake them because I work them into a similar system, and I'm pretty... I tell you what, the reason why I do it is if I think I've got an edge pattern-wise or something like that at the start of the day, or horses that are going to firm, and they're the horses I tend to throw into multis where I'm pretty confident about that the horses are well set up, well suited. It's a bit different. Whereas days where you've got a more doubt in your mind, I'd never play with that much confidence. So I do. It's a little bit like what Michael's saying. I do try and over-capitalise probably on an area where I'm super confident.
Yeah,
which is and I like that's what I'm trying to achieve. Is get a bit better result than I could by.
The name of the game is just winning.
Yeah, you just got to make sure you just don't overbet.
Yeah, cut it out. That's what I would do. John's approach slightly different.
Different, but that's and I've had a long time doing it too. But if you're not winning at it, and it's mentally playing on you and drawing your bank down, you one probably overstaking, and two probably best to cut it out and just keep tracking. Keep tracking what you would have done.
And your unit size being fairly small at the moment due to other financial commitments is partly a byproduct of the fact that you're losing
draining
on
it due to that.
You're draining on that capital. Whereas if you had that capital available because you're winning, even if it's small.
long-winded answer to this one, but it is a bit touchy and it's a little. It's a very personal situation, the old multi-betting, but it's getting becoming more difficult because we're saying like the 140%, 130. Or 130% plus you're betting into every race basically nowadays.
You can't deny the math. I mean, it's...
Yeah, you've got to be very... you've got to be in front of the market, otherwise you're in trouble. All right.
Okay, so Mitchell has got some more questions for this week's show. He's written in previously. Thanks, Mitch. How much of a role do systems play in your betting approach, John?
How much of a role do systems play?
Yeah, so systems can be a system as in...
Successful?
A set of rules or parameters, or I suppose your process is a system.
That's what I'm going to say.
But he's talking. I think he's talking more about systems, as in a set of fixed rules as a means of defining selections or potential selections?
Like my drive here today when I got lost because I was on the phone to someone talking about trials and ended up at the airport.
And you did an Irish.
My whole life is not about systems. So I went via the airport to your lovely establishment here today, whereas last week I sort of followed the GPS. That's pretty much how I bet. Like, as in finding horses, I don't have any sort of system. Well, I'm not. I do. There's definitely. I've got a million systems in my, but nothing that runs automatically and identifies horses. So I think this is definitely more along your lines than mine.
Okay, so in a minor sense, Mitch, I run systems, but the systems are really as a flag of horses, and they're only there to flag. For me, it's more about negative traits.
Yep.
So I'm looking for...
Which are just as good as positives.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm looking for...
possibly
horses.
the most underrated thing in racing.
What's that?
A negative target.
Yes. So I'm saying, okay, there is something about this horse's profile
that is likely to bring it up.
That is a big loser.
Overlooked next up.
That is a big loser.
Yep.
From a betting perspective. And I want the system to tell me that horse fits that profile, so that when I'm doing the form on that horse, I make an adjustment for that factor.
So when I was working at BetEasy, the lovely BetEasy, the guy there was in love with GTX. Yeah. GTX very different to your software, as in it's pretty much creating systems and things like that.
But it answers one question at a time.
It does, so you would. I think a lot more people use it running test systems and things like that. Like this is, but we're basically trying to do what you're saying is identify horses either positively or negatively. So a horse that's a massive loser over the time or a massive winner if you give it this set of circumstances. And I used to use that for the same the idea that you do. So now I would try and flag horses for me then to interrogate the form of it coming up, and I think that's a lot more successful to me. That makes a lot more sense to somebody like me. That a system would give you a head start or a set of horses to interrogate, and knowing that there's something there behind it before you even start. So
that you don't like.
Or do like one or the other. So then you're trying to work out whether today's the right day. So I think that's a really good way to use systems.
So in our software, I use the systems. They're set up. They automatically flag. The computer even talks to me and tells me when certain horses have met a particular profile or an area of their profiles that I've targeted. The other thing that I do is I run a automated set of markets that deliver, if you like, across the races that I'm looking at. Which races are likely to be more interest. So if I've decided that today there's 20 races, and of those 20 races, I want the automatics to show me which of those races are more clear cut.
Yes.
So which might be one or two chances stand out, or two or three chances stand out. They're the races then that I'm probably more likely to go and want to target in depth, as opposed to. Well, there's a length,
there's half a length or whatever it is,
6 to 1
20 cents.
6 to 1 there's 6 chances under double figures.
Yeah,
they're races I'm generally not wanting to target.
No, luck in running and things are going to sort that out more in the end of the day than.
I don't want to spend an hour on a race doing detailed maps and adjustments and ratings
for a race that's likely to be a charge of the light brigade anyway.
Yeah, or a race I'm just not going to be able to bet in.
No,
with confidence. So I'm using it, but I'm using it for a particular reason.
Yeah, they're two good ways to flagging a set of rules that are positive or negative, or straight off ratings based, giving you gaps in the field. Whether you do that by length or price, it makes no difference. It's the same thing. Yeah, good question.
So next part of the question, or next question is, can someone who only uses systems be successful? It's a loaded question, but I'm going to say yes, you can, but it depends what it is that you're...
Geez, it's hard to be successful if you don't know why you're successful, which is what I would say a lot of these systems-based people are. So a lot of the people that I've seen do it, they just plug in, they go, okay, 2-year-olds having their second start, going less than 100 metres, like that. But that's what I call a systems punter only. Someone that just runs things randomly.
Assuming someone is capable of understanding the data and understanding the math behind it and understanding the amount of data that you need to justify.
So you've got to be pretty good with. You've got to be pretty good with data alone.
Yes.
You
can't just sit there and run 100 systems and go, well, I'm just going to.
Well, this wins 8%, and that wins, and I'm going to bank on it.
I'm going to backfit these systems.
That's what people do. So they'll go, okay, so you run.
And that's the problem with, and this is not bagging the competition here, but that's the problem with products like GTX and
they colour things. So you can say.
They show you the results.
And allow you to back colour them. So what I'm saying is, you start off with, I'm going to interrogate $1 to $10.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, and then you look at the results and you go, oh, hang on, if I cut it to $9, it becomes a 10% better.
Yes.
Which is and so that's where people.
Well, yes, but the other problem is that what they don't do is they don't really show you what our betting analyzer does, and that is the real life experience. So most people look at a system, and let's just assume for 1 minute that you actually have a system that is successful.
Yes.
Let's pretend that's possible.
Yeah.
And let's pretend it makes 5% on turnover.
Yep.
It's a no-brainer. You want to back it, especially if you've got large data sample to support it.
Yep.
And assuming that the rules are logical and there's no backfitting involved.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that a system exists like that because I don't believe that one does, but over a large
I'm sure
sample. But let's just pretend that you've got a large enough sample and you've got a system that is successful, it's winning 5% on turnover, and you go, great, I can do that. What you don't see is the experience, the journey to reach that 5% profit on turnover every year. So you might have 2,000 bets, it might be winning 5%, you might be winning 5% at tote prices, you think that's great, I can get better than that, so I'll probably do better than 5%. And all you see, or all most people see, is the headline number, which is I'm going to win, 5 cents.
So I'm going to turn over $1 million, and I'm going to win 50,000.
Yeah, great. I can do that. What happens when your million's down to 500,000 halfway through that journey? That's what you don't see, and you don't understand it. You don't understand the drawdown. You don't understand the analysis on per bet block.
And if you're running 20 systems alongside each other, you don't see if they all off the same bank. And you see drawdown. I know where you're going.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
You don't see, and we've got the software sophisticated enough to actually show you that.
You can model it different ways, different things. You
can model it using different prices. You can model it using proportional betting or level stakes betting. You can use Betfair exchange prices, which we have. We have an agreement with Betfair on that. You can plug your commission rate in, so it shows it realistically what those net prices are.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with any system, whether it's done off a spreadsheet or whether it's done off
interesting. I've never thought about it like that. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's the actual journey. We call it the feel like a winner indicator, and that is,
Yeah, that's right. I've got 10 systems. They all win 8%, and I've got then 1,000 bets each.
I'll give up my job tomorrow.
Well, I'm just going to bank that 400,000 now. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Exactly. So it doesn't work that way in real life. So whilst I'm saying it's possible, it depends, and it can be unlikely.
Yeah, you nearly need to be a mathematician more than a you have to have qualifications. You're not going to just be able to.
The average person won't do it successfully.
No. What are the tips?
Okay, so what are the tips for not creating backfitted systems? How much unseen data do you use when testing, and how long would you test a system for before you started using it in betting? Well, we'll get back to the tips for not creating backfitted systems in a sec. How much unseen data? It's not a length of time. It's the number of iterations. So it's the number of bets essentially. So it doesn't matter if it takes you a week to have 100 bets or it takes 10 years to have 100 bets. It's still 100 bets. So it's the bets I'm saying. I'm saying great to have maybe 2,000 or 3,000 plus. That's great. You can make it work.
Off pure data, it's got to be a huge number. Yeah, it's got to be thousands.
But there is the safety in large numbers, that exist. So you need to have data.
Oh, much better if you've got 10,000 bets a year or something. And
if you've got 10,000 bets in a year,
that's a great, and it's a profitable system. Holy crap!
Come and talk to me.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm saying that the holdout data that you would want to see, and there's probably at least 50% of that. Again.
And your issue with backfitting is a lot of the time the bet numbers come right back too, which is so you really. Yeah.
So to not create backfitted systems, first of all, we've got a few articles on the website. You can probably have a look at those, maybe. But essentially, make sure you're using logical rules.
Yeah.
Make sure it makes sense. Understand.
Can't be too narrow.
Theme. Yeah. Understand the central theme that you want. I want to analyse favourites.
Yeah.
Or I want to analyse metropolitan races.
Yeah, horses second up, whatever it is. So there's a million different ways to go.
I want to do horses second up that are great at have T as their third letter in their name.
Yeah, that's right.
Like it starts to become very split. The great thing about ours is that instead of just getting the answer to the question that you're looking for, so if you want to test, say, favourites, you can then click the button, it'll run the analysis over hundreds of variables and give you the answer to 200 or 300 questions.
Well, I don't know how to use all this stuff. Why don't you taught me?
Because you've got to sit down with me. We've got to teach you. And you can actually get the answers to all those questions that you haven't.
I love that sort of stuff. I just love it. And I wouldn't even use it. I just love to know the answer. It's kind of weird. It does. Even if you saw it subliminally,
would be most unhappy if I told you how to use that.
I'd be there. Well, that's what I used to. I mucked around with that GTX for quite a while. It was good fun just because of that. You start looking forward to exploring new angles. It's kind of weird. And there's no doubt that even though I don't use the systems, there's statistics and things in the back of your mind that you've picked up along the way that are really helpful.
You want to see it. And look, we all look at stats, and stats are great if you know how to interpret them.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's a good question.
How much holdout data do you need? Well, I would say, if you could get up to 50% of what your initial sample size is, then I think that would be good.
Yep.
And how long before you started using it in your betting? Well, I'm not predominantly a systems punter or even partly a systems punter. I do the form similar
you use data more than I do most likely, but you use it to help you to
price
do form. Yeah. So it's definitely not one out.
So in the next 5 to 10 years, what type of advancements do you think we'll see in computer-based ratings, and what is your prediction for what the strike rate will be for the top-rated horse? Well, already I can tell you this for a fact, that Axis, and I'm promoting the product again, I know, but it's true, Axis has, its intelligence rating delivers a 28% strike rate in the top pick, and top 3 60.7. That's better than anything that's commercially available in the marketplace.
Commercially, yep.
Commercial.
So we're talking big teams to be on similar. Well, but they're not advanced. It's not a computer-based rating.
It's not. We're specifically answering your question here.
Yeah.
Computer-based ratings based on what's available in the marketplace. We are streets ahead.
Yeah, and the question saying 5 to 10 years. Would you expect that to improve?
Yeah, I would. I mean, my automatics. Okay, well, my automatics.
But I'm saying, what are you putting more indicators in there? Are you getting better data? Why would you? You know what I'm saying? Okay. Over 5 to 10 years, why would it improve?
Let's talk about why it's better now.
Yep.
It's better now because we use fully verified data in our subset.
Yep.
So we don't use any publicly available data.
Yep.
What you see in our database is completely
which is something
different.
That's pretty new, it's not, unless you wanted to pay a fortune for it.
Unless you're a computer team or something.
Unless you wanted to pay Michael Fraser or these guys over the last whatever. Yeah, you couldn't get verified data unless you did it yourself, and not as easy as it sounds.
Well, it's not as easy as it sounds.
No,
You're talking
seven. So that's something that's improved dramatically over the last 5 to 10, say. Yeah,
exactly.
So that's one that's I can see how that.
And giving Michael a rap, I mean, we get our times data from him.
Yes.
And he's been doing this for, I think, 25, 30 years.
Yep.
So he's the best in the business.
And none of that was commercially available.
No, it was going to private people.
Yes.
People, computer teams and whatnot, and small.
Yeah, similar systems, but no one would have known about them. Yeah.
No.
Okay, so that's improved a lot.
So that's why we already have, even for instance, our speed ratings are probably. I think I worked it out somewhere between 20 odd and 30% better than anything else in the marketplace, and our best rating.
And if you've been using them for longer, you're going to have a big head start on anyone who starts now or whatever, because your database can be a lot cleaner and truer than theirs, and that's going to influence.
And it's recalculated every day.
It's a knock-on effect all the way through.
We don't use reference times or any other data that's historic. We only use the historic results data, and that then forms the base, which is then recalculated every day. So we're always calculating things forward as they were on the day and forward. So that's a large reason
why you've got to where you are now. Yep. So that can't really improve. That's one thing that you wouldn't expect.
I can tell you that the algorithm which we amended about 2.5 years ago on the intelligence rating slightly has actually shown an uplift.
I'm talking about verified times.
No,
there's nowhere that can go.
We can't really get better.
But that's one thing that's helped you to get to where you are now.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
And not just the times, but the rest of the data that we verify as well. So margins, classes, track conditions, a whole bunch of things.
So you maximise that.
We maximise
as much as anyone in the market can.
As was, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that's one thing you've got. Yeah, so that's got you to a big number. Yeah, but it can't improve it.
Yeah. What we're talking about is new ways of taking existing information.
Yes, so a lot of people wouldn't have that in their systems already. So theirs can improve, but where yours is and why you're saying why it's probably market leaderish now is because you've already got that in there.
That's an automated computer rating we're talking about.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like he's saying, like how can they improve? Some people's can because they haven't input that, but you can't. So that's okay.
I can't improve that component.
No.
So then it comes down to the model. So the model, an output I use for my automatic ratings. And when I talk about automatic ratings, I'm talking about using historical performance ratings and applying a series of adjustments for a whole range of factors that exist in today's race. So, situation factors.
But none of that's done human input.
Well, the human input was the
adjustments,
the development of the scale and the quantum of the adjustments themselves.
Yeah, okay.
So if I decided that when that barrier one from 1,200 metres at Rose Hill for
but there's no. But if
a leader was worth,
but if that horse missed the start or whatever, there's none of that. There's no human.
There's no subjective. Adjustments.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm talking subjective adjustments. I'm talking about in-run advantage or disadvantage.
Yeah, no bias adjustments, no wind or whatever
it hasn't been,
pace or
AKA Hamilton data process.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's none of that. So that obviously is an improvement.
Yes.
Okay, if you can do that yourself.
Yeah, but that's not what he's talking about.
That's
not
what we're talking about. So what I'm saying is that from that computer, which is a totally computer-generated rating, to get that 28% strike rate in the top peg, if I then leverage the rest of the data in the database into the humanly constructed model, using obviously software to do it, and I put those outputs into my automatic ratings, my strike rate sitting at about 31 in top pick, which is pretty close to the favourite. So what I'm saying is I'm able to predict the winner
as much as the market predicts as a favourite,
and I can do that days in advance.
Yes.
Which is a huge advantage.
Yes.
What I've then got to be able to do is obviously identify those particular races where that advantage I can extrapolate is able to be maximised.
If I was looking at this, an outsider looking in and knowing only a fraction of what goes into a lot of these sort of ratings, I can't see how 5 to 10 years there can be too many advancements without human element input. Like I think a lot of I would say if I came to someone, not St. Paul because he sort of covers both sides, but someone with more a data background and they had no idea about racing really, but just data. If they came to me, I could overlay. I could help him a lot with input into like what you were saying.
Yeah,
we could go through certain factors. So things that you've basically exactly how you've created your software.
So it's almost I suppose a type of machine learning where you have.
It is, but then the machine's never going to. You could a computer could theoretically spit out a bias. It could because you could have a position in run where it's finished as opposed to its SP and where it wasn't. You could teach a computer to recognise bias or have an opinion on bias. There's no doubt you could do that, but you can't tell them to watch a video and adjust a rating. You can't do that. So that's where the line's drawn. You can, on theory, just due to. I know you can't actually.
You can actually, in some respects, with regards to margins from lead and
but the ride you can't. I think you could give them a bias. You could give them a bias bonus or take away, but you can't.
Maybe a lane.
Yeah, maybe lane where it was in run, especially with the city ratings the way they're covered. But you could never teach them to watch a ride. Or how strong it was on the line compared to others. You could with
there is always going to be
human element
for the sole trader, single one man band who is intently focused on one geographical area.
Or whatever
to extrapolate better results than what a computer team can.
Yes.
There's always going to be
and that's what it's very hard to improve. I think that whatever's been done has been done.
Well, automation. Look, we might see
different levels.
We might see a little bit of uplift in that in that figure. And there's a few things that we're working on at the moment with regards to the software that we're always working on things, but our programming schedule, just so you know, is about 18 months always ahead. So we know what we're pretty much doing for the next 18 months.
Yep.
So a couple of things that we're ready to release shortly are, well, no one else, I can say that one of them, no one else in the industry does it.
Yep.
Maybe some of the computer teams do.
Yeah, no one commercially does it.
But no one does it.
Yeah.
And I see it as a great advantage because I know how I want to use that data to interpret it, and we can talk more about that once it's actually out. But look, to answer your question...
Yeah, the beauty of Paul, again, is that he sort of overlay any punts as well. So he's not just a software developer, he's a punter, and things that over the years I'm sure that he's found are missing from the software or that he's added in. You know what I mean? Like, you've got the advantage that you, and whether it be you or others that you've worked with and used with your software, I'm sure they've provided you feedback and you've continued to incorporate
We've
and
got
build
lots
your
of
systems.
ideas that have been given to us by clients over the years that we've listened to.
Whereas a lot of these other systems are basically, you've got to provide all the intelligence yourself to improve it.
Well, you got to take official data, which is available to everyone, and you've got to do something with it.
Yeah, I know. Like I used to get it, so it'd say it's $800 a year. Verified data might be 100,000 a year or something. That's the difference in just price alone. Well, that's what it used to be. I'm not sure what it is now, but it's and most people take the cheaper option. Yeah, well, that's probably it because you've got license and things. But there's shortcuts, and you get what you pay for.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day. So and what else?
Good question.
I suppose just to for client or for non-clients, I use the software I sell. Simple as that. Whereas some others don't.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now
some sell the software they don't use, but that's another topic.
Yes.
Okay, go.
Okay. So Nathan, different Nathan, I'm assuming from the first. Thanks, John, and yourself for the content that you produce on Punters Academy. My question is, and I think this is a great question that you've asked. At any point during betting, i.e. opening market to jump, so we're talking official betting, does your assessed price factor in the market price? John, what about you?
I'm just reading on. I've been producing markets for a number of years and confident in what I do. However, I do feel in real evolution period of the market becoming extremely volatile. Any suggestion or... Okay,
so 20 minutes from the race, the bookies go up, first call comes through. Are you taking your price?
Mine's different depending where the market is.
Okay, so let's just say you've marked a horse $4.
So if I've marked a horse $4 in the country, and
it's $4.0260, do you leave your price at $4 or do you adjust it?
It's $2.60, and I've got it $4. Is that what you're saying? Sorry.
Your price is $4.
Yep.
The market price opens at $4.
Yes.
It's $2.60 now.
Yes, $2.60 now.
In the last 5 minutes of betting.
Yes. In the country.
Yep.
Because I think I've got a better edge there historically, I'm going to factor my price a lot more heavily, weighted a lot more heavily than I will market price.
But do you change at all?
I will. Again, it depends on the circumstance. So if that horse is, say, first up, it depends on the level of query on that horse. So we had something where it has fit into what we've talked about before. So if it's a first up horse, stable change, a betting stable, whatever it is. But if it's just a horse it's had 30 starts, very exposed, nothing there to learn really apart from maybe biases to set up on the day, something that shouldn't, I should have picked up anyway. I'm not going to, I'll take notice of it, but I'll probably play myself overall. Whereas if it's got massive queries over it, if it's in the city where I think the market's far more, that'd be interesting, like SPs in the city compared to countries, how they perform just straight off SPs. Whether the city to me seems far more learned from a market perspective, especially late in betting. I definitely factor it and change my price if something's, especially if it's $4 to $2.60. If it's $2.60 opens and it's still $2.60, not as much. But if it's $4 to $2.60, I think that's a pretty significant thing, and I'd definitely be changing my price.
My answer to your question, Nathan, is yes, I do. And a great example, I'll just use this one. So I had Cuba at 13 to 4 or $4.25.
Yep.
And I had Eugene's pick at $4.
Yep.
Now in my mind, going into that race, I've priced Eugene's pick as short as I possibly could.
Yes.
In my mind,
yes.
In my mind, I'm saying I could easily be much longer. Brock Ryan's going to be a negative.
Yes.
From the team's point of view.
Yes.
This horse,
so you're not surprised if this horse is weak in betting too.
Yes, there's more, and if it is weak in betting, I want to factor what the market's telling me about that horse into my market.
Yes.
So as you can do in Axis, and once again, I think it's the only product you can do it in. It's true. You can blend the
Dallas?
market.
Is this Dallas or Paul Daly? Jesus Christ!
You can blend the price with the market. You can set the percentage that you wish to blend at. So you can say, okay, I want so much of mine and so much of the market.
Most people who like what you're saying, blending's a great tool because people who don't have the time or even maybe ability at the end of the day to set their own price or whatever, they might overlap 3 or 4 different sets of markets, attributing them all a certain percentage, and then
you have to adjust for the overround.
Yes, and they all factor in market. Yeah. All of those, every one of them, every single one.
I think the answer would be that most of the computer teams factor in market.
I'd say
if not all.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because obviously some of them are influencing the market very heavily.
It'd be different for some races versus another, sure.
Yeah.
So in that race, I didn't blend the market, but what I used the market to my advantage. So what I said to myself is, okay, Eugene's picks on the blow.
Yes.
Bet Easy were starting
top
the top dresser.
Yep.
The Betfair market was starting to head out in that direction.
Yep.
So what I did was we've got a setting in there where you can either lock and hold a price at a particular price.
Yep.
You can at whatever price you want, or you can set the market as the price.
Yep.
Meaning, as it continues to blow, without any blend or with a blend as well, if you want to, the other prices continue to reframe.
Yeah, so for argument's sake, in this race, you had 425 Cuba, $4.
425 Cuba and $4.
So you might have set Eugene's to market and the other one 425 fixed.
No, I didn't.
But you could have done that in this.
I could have.
Yeah.
Or what I did was I actually set Eugene's pick to market.
Yes.
Let it blow to 15 to 2
yes.
around that price.
Yes.
It brought Cuba into 9 to 4.
Oh, okay, okay. Right. So you just said one horse. So you've got a query on one horse in the race, so you set it to market.
The market's telling me that this horse
that's
is
its price.
soft.
Yep, and that means...
I knew that I could have marked it a lot longer.
Yes.
It was the one I was concerned about.
Yes.
Put it to market, let that market go out to 15 to 2, or whatever it was, 7 to 1.
Yes.
Which then reframes the percentage using the distribution that I control as well, because I can dictate what the distribution is.
Yes.
And because I've got that hooked into the my bet formula, it actually recalculates my bet size.
Yeah.
And it does this every 30 seconds.
And it's very interesting because a lot of people would miss how big an effect a query runner has in the race one way or the other.
Well, in that situation...
So if it, let's say for argument's sake, it firmed at 9 to 4. Eugene's pick, market-wise, told you it should be 325. All of a sudden, Cuba's out to $6.
No.
Or whatever it is, $5.50, $6.
So what that... I wouldn't have brought Eugene's pick any shorter.
No, I'm just saying if you did... Like, I'm just saying when people frame a market, they sort of just think, for argument's sake of this thing, I've got 2 horses, $4, just to make it easy.
Yep.
There's a big query over one of them, it goes out to $12.
Yep.
How big an effect that has on the rest of their market.
Huge.
People don't, unless you have something dynamic that reframes things.
That's exactly.
You'll miss opportunities often by a race that may have looked plain on paper to you, but there was a query runner that the market should be up with. All of a sudden it's out the gate. Now you've got solid opportunities around it that you weren't even...
And my bet size...
Yeah, may go from tiny to large or large to tiny, whatever. Yeah, it's a massive.
And so
effect.
So having all that as a tool
in play,
that's one example of, I suppose, what I'm trying to extrapolate here is the answer is yes, I do.
Well, you'd say that everybody uses the market in some respect, whether they how aggressively changes their prices,
but how consistently you apply.
Yeah,
it.
That's
and
how you
manually,
apply.
You can't.
No,
you can't.
No, very different.
So one way I do it is to let a horse go to market if I've got a potentially a negative query for this horse.
Yep.
So I'm saying this horse could easily blow.
Yes.
If
the market tells me its price was wrong,
the price is wrong, I'll let it go to market and let my market.
Yeah. Basically, you're leaving it to say that this is a horse I can't know the truth about. The market's going to know more than I will.
Yes. Other times it'll just be that I want to blend.
Yeah.
Because I'm coming into a race where there's a number of queries.
Which fits into kind of what I was saying too. Like, say a horse is 6th running in 30 starts, everything's fully exposed, and it's gone $4 to $2.60. But you specialise in that area, you're going to use that a lot. Well, I'm going to use that a lot less.
Yeah, you might only use 10 or 15 or 20% market,
yes,
and 80%, 90%
of your own.
yours.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the more the query, the more the market should be more helpful to you in situations. In theory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he says he's been producing his own markets for a number of years, and he's got confidence in doing that. But he feels that we're in a real evolutionary period with the market becoming extremely volatile. Any advice or suggestion?
It is volatile, but it's volatile for a lot of reasons. There's only a few
POC's
things.
had an effect.
Yep, for sure.
An effect on the early betting.
The way corporates bet, the bots, the way they use Betfair, like you're saying, even Bet Easy have a big influence over the market. Lady betting, it's and it's all, to me, a lot of it in confidence-wise is how well you know your market. So if you're spreading yourself very thin and you don't really know the ins and outs of it a lot, you're probably best off to use market a lot more than someone who's knows the area back to front and thinks they know more than the market as a whole will. But I don't think it's advancements that have made it more volatile. I think it's just a very strange position that Australian racing's in at the moment. It's the climate.
It's the climate of the betting, and the POC tax has had a massive impact on the early betting.
NBL, all these like minimum bet laws, everything's changed. The way early markets are priced up for one, like your 135 or whatever is pretty standard.
Now, I want to tell you about getting into the track. Lately, the last few meetings, apart from Lismore last week, I haven't been in Sydney, and there was one there a few weeks ago. But a great example of a horse came up a couple of weeks ago in Sydney, and I can't think of the horse's name, but I could dig it out. But it was $1.95 on the corporates. That was the best price available.
Yeah, I know the horse you're talking
Arcadia
about.
Queen.
Yeah, that was the horse, yeah.
Arcadia Queen. At exactly the same time, it was $1.95 with Bluebet.
Yep.
Bluebet on track for $2.15.
Yeah. Yeah, huge.
That's a massive difference. So that's the effect of the POC. It's also the effect of the bots and whatnot as well. On the scrapers. But, that's a big percentage difference. If you're targeting horses like that, and a lot of people are.
Massive.
And it's a huge advantage to be able to get that extra 20 cents.
When an old school bookie just wants to lay the horse, whatever, it doesn't make that big a difference to his book at the end of the day if he's got to push it a little bit to make sure he gets something out of it. You're there to take advantage of it. Whereas a corporate doesn't have to because they got the volume.
I'm not talking country tracks. I got half the time it's one or two bookmakers, but
it's irrelevant. No, you know what I mean. Like a corporate doesn't need to wind their price. They know that they're it'll find its level and they'll eventually lay it. Whereas a bookie on track, he's only competitive against the few guys there. He's going to be absolutely. He's a chance of pushing his arm a little bit more than they will. And you can be there to take advantage of it.
Righto, that's this week's questions. John, obviously, is racingwatch.com.au. I'm Paul at ratingstowin.com.au.
If you haven't noticed, he's ratingstowin.com.au. He's got a software system there, if you hadn't realised. It's pretty good.
We should talk about it.
Yeah, we should talk about it. No, thanks, guys.
See you guys. Chat next week. Bye.